This is the Mr. Productivity Podcast. On the show today, Ramona Galey, a vibrational mentor who empowers coaches, consultants, and healers to break free from imposter syndrome and embrace their true worth. Through her transformational teachings on alignment and self-love, she helps others unlock their potential, find joy, and create effortless abundance in their lives. Ramona, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mark. I am so glad to be here. I'm really looking forward to our little chat very much.
Vibrational mentor. What does that mean? I want to make sure that we don't get off on the topic and then people go, I'm sorry, I'm back at the beginning. What's a vibrational mentor?
Well, first of all, you've never heard of it because I made it up.
Oh, okay.
You're vibrational. I'm vibrational. The table, the chair, everything is vibrational. And I remember when I was a kid, I learned about the atoms that were vibrating back and forth. And there's a lot of space between every atom, but yet you can touch something and it feels solid. So it's very different from what we perceive with just our five senses. So everything's vibrating at a speed or a vibrational level, like the different hertz, of sounds and things, but everything has a vibrational level. And so in my teachings, every emotion has a vibrational level to it. So higher vibration is like joy and ecstasy and satisfaction, and lower would be like boredom and just sort of contentment. And then way down below would be like anger, and below that even, shame and guilt and all of that. So as a vibrational mentor, I'm teaching people how to raise their own vibrations, regardless of what's going on around them. And there's a lot of different ways that we do that. But it's essential if you want to feel good and you want to be able to have control over it yourself and not depend on something or someone else to raise your own vibration, then you learn to raise your own vibration. That way you can control your own feelings, basically, and your own thoughts. And then mentor, because I'm not really a teacher, I'm not even really a coach. I'm a mentor in that I demonstrate through role modeling and I give feedback, but I'm never telling anybody else what to do. All of my clients already know deep down inside everything they need to know, and I'm just helping them remember how to access it. So, vibrational mentor, that's what I am. That's what I do.
I remember when I was in science class and my teacher told me that everything's vibrating, even the chair you're sitting on, and I could still see the stupefied look of all the students in the class. They're like, no, I'm pretty sure there's something wrong with your teacher because I don't see this moving, but we look at things, it's not moving, so it's not vibrating. So that is scientific. I want people to understand that. Now, I identify as Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. So to say my vibration is high is an understatement. I am just annoyingly, optimistically joyful. Well, not all the time. That would be a lie, but most of the time. So I can completely relate what you're saying.
Yeah. And I really am too. I'm not quite maybe as high energy as Tigger, but high vibing, yes. Optimistic, yes. Uplifting, yes. Always. I'm always seeking. And like you, I'm human. So sometimes I'm not. But that's always my goal. And I succeed pretty well most of the time.
Would you say you're more of a Winnie the Pooh?
I don't know. I'm going to say somewhere between the two. I'll take option number 3, please.
But you wear pants, right?
I do wear pants, yes. Okay.
I just don't know how.
If I don't.
I don't know how Winnie the Pooh would exist in 2024, 2025. A bear without pants that talks. I mean, that's pretty interesting, but that's not the topic of the show. I believe that there is tremendous power in joy, positivity, love, and kindness. And
Absolutely.
We've gone through to say a crisis is an understatement. The last 4 years, we're entering 2025. We recorded this back on November 25th. We don't know what's happening in the world now as you're listening to this. But there's a lot of people, I see a lot of anger, a lot of hatred, a lot of divisiveness. From a productivity standpoint, what do you think you're going to be more productive as? A positive, joyful, kind person, or one who's angry and upset all the time? I mean, to me, it's a big duh.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Productivity as well as anything else, like, abundance, experience, connection, intimacy, anything is going to be better when you already feel better, which is, of course, one of the reasons why I do what I do. So when we can feel better and vibrate higher and be joyful, I actually believe the purpose of life is joy. I used to believe that the purpose of life was growth, trying to prove something to somebody. I don't even know who I was trying to prove it to, but I guess to myself as much as anybody. But what I found was when I started focusing on the purpose of life is joy, and when I really got that and really started practicing it consistently, my growth and my productivity went through the roof. So focusing on joy gets you everything you want. Always, no exceptions.
And people who are angry and bitter tend to have physical issues as well, because our bodies were not designed, or I believe created. I'm a Christian. Don't hide it on the show. I believe we were all created for a purpose. And God is love. God did not create us to be angry at people and to be frustrated and be overwhelmed. He is love. He wanted us to be happy. Now, I want to make sure people understand, if you don't understand the Bible, God never said he would give you lots and lots of money. I don't believe money brings joy. I believe money is just a multiplier of whoever you are. So if you are already miserable, you're a curmudgeon, well, money's going to make you a rich curmudgeon. But if you are a tigger and you make a lot of money, you're going to be a rich tigger. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. In fact, I would teach that money doesn't actually have any essence other than what we bring to it. It doesn't exist like a tree or a rock or a person does. And so it's this human construct, it's this ethereal concept, and we give it all this weight, and it doesn't even exist. It's such a perversion of what true abundance is. Abundance is resources. Abundance is good feelings. Abundance is connection and intimacy and support and positivity. And so when we live in that kind of abundance, the money takes care of itself. When you focus on money, you got some problems frequently, because it does. It just exacerbates whatever else is going on in your life. So that's why we just all focused on joy over on my end. It sounds like you do too. It sounds like we're a perfect match.
I am 59 years young, and up until about 5 years ago, I was trying to get that money, the millions, the billions, the trillions, the quadrillions. And then I said, I think I'd rather choose happiness. I'd rather chase happiness. And a little side note here, I think they spelled happiness wrong. I think they should spell it HAPPYNESS. So we have the word happy in there.
Yes.
And I remember hearing Gary Vaynerchuk share something on a story once, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this. He said, I know people who make $50,000 a year. They're always home for dinner. They go to all the kids' ball games. They go to all the kids' recitals, and they're happy. I know people who have $50 million in the bank and are miserable. Speak to that, would you?
Absolutely. Because vibration, our own vibration, determines how we feel. I can look at the worst thing in the world and control my thoughts, my perception, my judgment, all of these things that I do, this reactivity that we're all so involved in, right? We're so reactive. We don't have to be reactive. We can choose what we focus on and then elevate our feelings and feel fantastic. And that's it. That's what I teach. That's what we do all the time. This is what we've come for, to be happy. Not to prove anything, not to own more stuff than the other guy, not to wield power, like money is power and time is money and all this stuff. Right here, right now, with my loved ones. That's what makes most of us the most happy. And add on top of that, purposeful, meaningful contribution. That's the next thing we've all come for. So once I've got my basis, that foundation of human needs, I put love right there, and then loving connection right there, and then spiritual love right there. And pretty much you fill the whole thing up with love. And anything else, it's kind of off task, really.
I love how you talked about we get to choose what energy we're going to bring to a situation. I happened to see a video from Tony Robbins. I'm not name dropping, folks. I don't know Gary Vee. I don't know Tony Robbins. I just happened to see a video. He was sharing a story about many years ago. He was ripped off. He was in business with two other guys, and he got ripped off. So one of them ripped off the other one. And I'm probably not telling the story completely correct, but one of his partners, so there's three partners, him and two other people. Someone from the business embezzled a bunch of money. The one guy got really angry, turning red, steam coming out of his ears, eyes popping out of the sockets. And the other guy wasn't saying anything. And Tony looked at him and said, why aren't you saying anything? I mean, we got embezzled like millions of dollars. And he goes, yeah, I'm kind of peeved, but life goes on. And Tony goes, peeved? Peeved? Are you kidding me? And what happened was the one guy chose anger. The other guy said, yeah, it sucks, but let's move on. And I just thought it was really interesting how those two partners, and I think Tony told in the story that he was more the guy really angry, but he couldn't get over the guy saying, yeah, it's kind of inconvenient. I'm kind of peeved about it, but look, it happened. You can't get in your DeLorean and go back and change it. So let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy who's really upset, he's not ever going to recover all of that wealth and that abundance or that security or whatever that money meant to him. He's never going to recover it nearly as fast as the guy who's just, yeah, I'm kind of peeved, but I'm ready to move on, because he's clearing his vibration out. He's ready for whatever's next. The first guy, he's stuck in the past. And he's not going to get what he wants until he releases the past. You've got to release it.
I was thinking about the times that when the internet goes out or the cell doesn't connect and we can't send a message on iMessage or whatever, and we get so angry. I got to keep reminding myself. I remember when we didn't have this technology. Now we have it. My wife and I have gigabit internet at the house. And if I get below a gigabit, I get angry. And my wife keeps reminding me, no, we have up to a gigabit. So sometimes you'll get 500 megs and sometimes you'll get 750, sometimes you get gig. But I'm like, I want it all. And she goes, you're not even on the internet right now. Why do you care? I would just get wrapped up into this, but it's a first world problem.
Yeah, it is. I first thought about this a long time ago when I saw military people coming back from serving overseas, serving in the desert, serving in the jungle, all these really uncomfortable places. They've gone and they served their country and then they came back. Now, and they were typically men back then when I was a younger person. These men had come out of the battlefield and they try to reacclimate into civilian life. And they're surrounded by a bunch of crybabies who are like, man, this doesn't work. Man, that doesn't work. And here's a guy who has endured quite a lot of discomfort, quite a lot of personal sacrifice for a reason that they believe is valid. They really care. And they've done that. And then later, when my partner died, my partner of 24 years, she was my only source of unconditional love as far as I was concerned at the time. This was 10 years ago. She died in my arms. Now, when you compare that or what the military people go through to somebody whose phone is 2.2 seconds slower than they think it should be, and they have a little temper tantrum, there's no comparison. And to me, that entire thing is appreciation, resilience, hope, connection to self, connection to source or God, however you want to say it. Some people call it Allah, Mother Earth, whatever you call it. It's bigger than us. It's pure love. It's divine. And if you don't get tapped into it and tuned into it, you're never going to be really satisfied. You're never going to have a beautiful life, the one that you want. So get tuned in, bring it like full circle, like complete that circuit within you in whatever belief system you can. And then watch the magic happen in your life.
I wish I could tell you I never have an Eeyore moment, but that would be a lie. I do slip from Tigger to Eeyore because I'm human. I am a human being. Things are going to irritate me, whether it's the cable going out or it's raining. I get a ticket, which hasn't happened recently, but there are little things that are going to happen. I remember one time I was watching my beloved football, European football. We call it soccer in the States. And I was adjusting my tray and my Diet Coke flipped over on the floor. It was Diet Coke on the floor and I hit the ceiling. And then after I cleaned it up, I'm like, you dolt. What are you, Eeyore? I mean, so you spilled your Diet Coke. It's not acid, though some people may think it's acid. I really quickly said, you know what? I think I might have overreacted to spilling the Diet Coke, but that's all good.
But you didn't carry that for days, did you? It sounds like you were over it in 5 or 10 minutes. So that's resilience. So of course we're human and we get mad about stuff, but when we can let it go very quickly, then it doesn't stick to us. When we can't let it go, it sticks. It's like the stickiest thing in the whole world. It sticks. And then another thing happens, it sticks. And another thing happens, it sticks. Pretty soon we're so heavy we can't even stand up. Seriously.
Kind of like those fly strips that people get, and the flies go there and get stuck to them, right?
Yes.
And one
Yes.
fly and go, oh, what happened to Fred? Oh, now the other fly stuck. Oh, what happened to Jimmy? Now Sally gets stuck because Jimmy and Fred get stuck, and they just keep, that's kind of like what we're doing, right?
Yes, that's a great metaphor. I'm stealing it.
Go ahead. All right, so we're 15 minutes in the episode. We probably whet the appetite of the listener, and they're like, okay, all right, Ramona, I get it. But what you got for me? I want some techniques. I want some tactics. What are some ways I can change my energy, my vibration? Because Ramona, I'm an Eeyore, and I don't want to be Eeyore anymore. My friends and family don't want to be around me because I'm an Eeyore. What do you have for them?
Okay. Number one, breathe. Breathe deeply. And the best breath in the whole world for your nervous system is 2 quick intakes. Just like that. You do that, you will feel your entire body start to relax. When you feel your body start to relax, you can feel your emotions start to relax. When you feel your emotions start to relax, you feel your thoughts start to relax. Number one step, you can do it over and over. It's free. You can start right now. You can practice with it. You can play with it. You can ask questions about it. You can study about it. You can just do it over and over and over again. It doesn't cost a thing. The air is free everywhere, except for maybe on the moon or Mars if we end up with people there. But everywhere on Earth, the air is free. So
You know what I like to tell people? I like to tell people when you get really frustrated, stop. Just literally stop. And I encourage people to walk outside, to take a micro break. Don't exchange one technology for another. Go outside. Don't talk to anyone. Don't even think about anything. Do some deep breathing, like you just said, but just allow your brain to go, okay, let me just sort what's going on here. So many people are pushing a rope, and they are amazed how a 5-minute non-technology, non-thinking, non-talking break will do for the mind.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's really awesome. It's a really awesome practice to get really good at, because when you practice on the little things like, oh, I stubbed my toe. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just going to let that. Okay. Good. Good. You practice on the little things like stubbing your toe. Then when something god awful happens, some tragedy, you're much more resilient in being able to handle it and to recover from it. Absolutely.
And I also encourage people to extend themselves grace, because you will get a streak going of controlling your temper, and all of a sudden you'll snap. Don't be hard on yourselves. You're human. You probably have bad days too. You just going to go, okay, I slipped up today. It's okay. I think grace is a powerful strategy. Do you agree? Absolutely.
And one of my favorite sayings is, was it really a bad day, or was it a bad 5 minutes that you milked all day? Now, some people will milk it like a victim, and other people will milk it like beating up on themselves, right? Either way, you're milking it. If you just say, oh, bad 5 minutes, well, starting over right now. Just come back to right now. Come into the body, into the breath right now. Right here, right now. That's all that matters. It's all we've got. It's all that exists is right now. You can let go of the past. You can let go of the worry of the future, the regrets of the past, the anger of the past, whatever it is. Just come right back right here, right now. And it's a bad 5 minutes, not a bad whole day.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, so we got breathe, and I attached my 2 things of micro breaks and extending yourself grace. What else do you have for our listeners?
Well, appreciate. Anytime you feel out of sorts, for any reason, under any circumstances, look around, and it might be a person, it might be something about yourself, it might be something in your environment. It can be a glass of water, it can be a tube of lipstick, it can be a tree, it can be anything. Find something to appreciate. Look right at it and say, oh, what a beautiful tree. Or, oh, I just love the thought of cool water. I love the feeling of cool water just gliding down my throat, across my tongue and down my throat. And as I'm thinking about this cool, clean water, which makes me very lucky, some people on this earth don't have access to clean water. So as I'm really appreciating the sensation of it, or the beauty of it, or the texture of it, or the sound of it, or the smell of it, or just the thought of it doesn't matter what it is. Find something to appreciate. the number one way of just getting out of a funk if anything else isn't working, or even as a first. Some people use this first, some people use the breath first, but it's fantastic and it always works. It always works.
Hey, it's Mr. Productivity, and a quick timeout from the episode. I have two big favors to ask of you. If you are watching or listening to this on Spotify, first of all, if you would give me a follow, that would help the Spotify algorithm to serve this podcast up to other people so I can help them like I'm helping you. And would you leave me a comment? There's a place here on Spotify where you can send me a comment. You can say hello. You can say, what up, dog? You can say, hey, Mr. Productivity, love the podcast today. Just remember, Mr. is all spelled out, M-I-S-T-E-R, Mr. Productivity. Hey, thanks for your attention. Let's get back to the episode. Woohoo! I have been a daily runner since August 29, 2017. And sometimes I will listen to a podcast or an audiobook or music, but I'm trying to run what's known as running naked every day, which means without headphones. Okay. And what I've learned to appreciate is the wind blowing through the trees. I've learned to appreciate the birds chirping because I run first thing in the morning, first light. And when I've got the podcast or the audiobook or the music, I can't hear that. So 2 or 3 times a week, I'm trying to go without headphones. And I can tell you, I appreciate those runs more than when I'm listening to something, because now all I can do is make sure one foot lands in front of the other, look at my surroundings, and listen. It's absolutely amazing. But you don't have to do this when you run. Ride a bike, go for a walk, don't use the headphones.
Yeah. Or even just standing there doing the dishes, just anything. So here's what I teach. When it's bothering you, distract yourself. When you're not bothered already, focus. In other words, distraction, like headphones, podcasts, whatever, that's great if you're trying to forget something, move away from something, release something, not focus on it. Distraction is great. We call it, oh, look, squirrel. Oh, look, squirrel. Like whatever it is, like, oh, this awful thing happened. Oh, look, squirrel. Like I'm not going to focus on that, right? I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm just going to let it go and focus on something else. But when it's wonderful, focus. Focus, focus. Release all the distractions. Come back to the self. Be still. Feel your grace. Feel your divinity. And focus and appreciate. Absolutely. I love that.
God says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. But those 2 words, be still. We live in a world now where it's go, 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 go. And we don't take time to get still. And there are times when people are, I'm watching TV. You're also scrolling on TikTok or Instagram. When's the last time you got your favorite beverage, coffee, tea, Diet Coke, whatever? You went on your back porch and just sat there. You weren't on your phone. You were just kind of like an extended micro break. You're just there. People are always rushing to the next thing. And I think we need to, whether you believe in God or not, I think those 2 words are powerful. Be still. Where is it written that we have to rush every minute of every day that we're awake? We don't. So I just encourage people to be still.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I would say not only do we not have to, but it's very important that we don't just keep rushing. Be still. That's where we recharge. That's where we get our guidance from God. That's where we tune back into our body and reset. Look at any animal. When they first get up, they stretch. Oh, that's part of be still. I love my body. I feel my body. Oh, that feels so good. Okay, now I'm ready. They always prep like this. Unless a bear comes out of the woods and a cat is laying there asleep and all of a sudden, but in general, they will take time to be still, to be within themselves, to focus on themselves, and then they'll go over and get a drink of water or go over and get something to eat or come up and ask for a snuggle, whatever it is. It's just so natural. It's so ingrained in us as babies, but then it's conditioned out of us by modern society, isn't it? Like you said, rush, push, do. I like the old saying, we're not human doings, we're human beings. Mm-hmm. So how do you just be? And I will say part of it's conditioning, but part of it is the fear of looking within. Most of us are a little afraid of what we're going to find if we look inside. And so that's a big part of what I do. I help people to release that fear enough to look inside and discover their own divinity, their own beauty, their own perfection, their own love. And once you discover that, nobody can take that away again. You don't relinquish that the second time, only the first time. Yeah.
And it's interesting that when we're sleeping, we cannot be on our phones. We can't be rushing. When we're sleeping, our body is busy at work, purging our body of toxins and sorting through our memories. So isn't it interesting that when we sleep, we're not doing anything? Maybe, here's a crazy thought, we should put that practice during the day at times instead of always doing, just relax. I mean, Cal Newport wrote in one of his books, I believe it was Deep Work, where he talks about embracing boredom. It's like if we're bored for like a microsecond, we pick up our phones.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an adult, I'm 59. I remember when there was no cell phones, and I used to be bored all the time. I remember to this day whining to my mother, I'm bored, because back then there's like 4 TV channels. I mean, there wasn't cable or satellite, and there certainly wasn't streaming. I'm bored. And my mother used to say, being bored is good for you. I never understood what my mom meant. Now, in this day and age, I certainly do.
The wisdom of our parents, it comes around late, doesn't it? It sure did for me. They didn't know anything until I was in my mid-40s.
Okay, so we talked about breathing and appreciation. Let's give the viewers and the listeners one more tactic they can put into use today. Now, folks, the 2 things that Ramona already gave you are free: breathing and appreciate. You could do those anywhere. So what's your third tip for us?
Next one's free too. Choose your focus. First of all, give yourself permission to choose your focus, because some people really have trouble with that one. And then once you've given yourself permission, pretend you are a camera lens. And if you were taking a photograph, everybody's probably taken a photograph of some sort. You don't have to be a professional photographer to identify with this. And you frame that thing just a certain way. Like, okay, I want the tree right in the middle, or I want the tree off to the side so that I can catch the elk or the deer, whatever it is, right? So I compose this scene, and then I take the picture, and I might make the background blurry and the foreground sharp or opposite, or I might put a filter on it, but I'm making the choice what I want to focus on and capture with my camera. We can do the same thing with our attention, with our intention, and with our focus. And so when I choose what to look at, I'm committing almost a revolutionary act in our society, because society wants to tell you what you should focus on. You should watch the news. You should get involved with politics. You should go to church. You should do this. You should do that. You should be kind. You should be loyal. You should be generous. You should be hardworking. You should be productive. You should be.
Tony Robbins says that you're shooting all over yourself. I love
shooting all over yourself. I love that. And I studied with Tony Robbins, so that's where my original life coach training came from. So I'm very familiar. Change your state, change your life. That was very impactful for me. So when you choose your focus, you can focus on anything you want. You can choose to focus only on things that look good, that feel good, that sound good, that taste good, that smell good, that feel good, that feel right. So when you choose your focus like that, we call this blisscipline. The commitment to focus only on that which feels good, blisscipline. So not discipline, but blisscipline. When you start actuating blisscipline in your life and you start choosing, okay, I like this, but I like this better, or this feels bad, this feels better. I'm going to focus on the one that feels better, regardless of how much it pays, how much it costs, what everybody else thinks, what the law says, and regardless. I'm going to choose this one thing over this other thing based on how it feels. When you start living that, your life just expands beyond belief, and it gets so good, so good.
I hope I get this right. Tony Robbins has a quote that says, where focus goes, energy flows. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so
they teach this to race car drivers. It's counterintuitive in a way. When you're driving a race car and you start to go into a skid, your natural thing is to look at the place where the skid is taking you, right? Oh no, here comes the wall. But if you'll just look where you want to go instead, the car will naturally correct itself. We go where we focus. And so if you're looking at things that don't feel good, you're going to get more of that. If you're looking at things that do feel good, you're going to get more of that.
Real life example. I mean, that was a real life example, but a real example from my life is for many years, I was fired from my job in 2005 and became a solopreneur. And for years, I was like, how do I make money? How do I make money? And it was just, I was obsessed with money. And there's a story in the Bible about the potter and the clay. And God is the potter and I'm the clay. And because I was obsessed with money, God would be, doing what potters do, forming the clay, and I would be money, 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 and he'd squash it and start over again. And I had to go through many years of not making any money, of struggling, because God was saying, hey, look at me. I'm not going to make you successful if you're obsessed over money, because I know better than you do. And it took many years for him to break that habit of money's going to solve all my problems. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to buy private islands and private planes. And, that's not what I should have been doing. I wasn't focusing on serving people with joy and positivity and kindness. I was obsessed over the money. And so I struggled for years until I broke that habit. Now I'm at peace. Whether I make money or don't, I'm happy. And sometimes people learn those lessons quick. I was stubborn. It took me many years of going through that, but I finally learned the lesson.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And if you had been focusing at that time on what felt better, I posit that you would have determined quickly that focusing on something that doesn't actually exist, that's just for the pleasing of other people or impressing other people or whatever, whatever story you were telling yourself about what money meant to you. And I'm sure it changed from moment to moment. This means status. This means power. This means comfort. This means security, whatever it is. Focusing on those things in a manner of lack, in other words, focusing on the lack of those things, I need money to fill this hole, I need money to make this happen, didn't feel good compared to so many other things that you now focus on. They feel better. This is a God-given GPS system that we have. If it feels bad, it's not the truth. If it feels good, it's the truth. And I don't mean a hedonistic kind of feel good. One of the things I teach is the discernment between what actually feels good and what society has told us would feel good. So we get really caught up in gambling and pornography and food and alcohol and all this stuff. But none of that stuff feels good. You can feel the heaviness of that when you compare it to a pureness and a divinity. And so determining what feels good will actually get you out of all of those attachments to money, I think, quicker than almost anything else can. Seriously.
You have said a couple times that money is just a human construct, which it is. And I remember seeing a show once, I think it was by Glenn Beck, where he says people are saving all this money, but let's say an EMP exploded over the United States and all electronics are dead. Well, money in a crisis doesn't really help you. No, it helps you. Right. Water, food, shelter. And so we think that, I got a lot of gold. Okay, well, you can't eat gold. If you're thirsty or if you're starving to death, what would you pay for water? Well, if I have water and you've got gold, what am I going to do with your gold? I don't know how long this crisis is going to last. I want water. I'm thirsty. And I think people, going back to the money thing, they think that if they have a lot of money, it's going to solve all their problems. I know people who are really rich, got cancer and died, as do you. Money is not a protection. Yeah, you have better access to different healthcare than the rest of us do. But if you got some stage 4 cancer, which I hope you don't, all the money in the world is not going to save you because you're human. I hate to break this to people, but you are human. And I think you're going to be better off spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, all the Lees, if you focus on kindness, happiness, joy, and positivity than the money.
I totally agree with you. In fact, I would say the forced focus on accumulation of money is an expression of fear. It's an expression of lack. And so I like this analogy. Would you want all the food you're going to eat for the rest of your life delivered to your house today? Of course not, right? Because that would just be so overwhelming. You wouldn't be able to walk around. And that's kind of like what we're saying when I want a bunch of money in the bank. What I'm really saying is I want to make sure that I'm protected against everything that possibly could happen in the future. See how my my shoulders have gone up. The focus of the hoarding of money is the accumulation of money is just an expression of fear. And we all have felt fear at different times. It's okay. But when you start to release that fear, and that need for money, then it's kind of ironic because the money just starts flowing. It flows just like water once you release the fear about it.
One of my big goals in life is I want to own my own private plane, but not for status. It's because I don't want to have to go to the airport, go through security, go through all the gates, worry about my late flight. If my plane on time, when you have your own private plane, it ain't going to leave without you. So I may never be able to have a private plane, but it's one of my big, hairy, audacious goals because if I decide on a weekend, you know what, I'm going to go see my family up in Rochester, New York. I live in Houston. I could just call my pilot, meet the airport, and take off. So for me, it would be because it would be joyful. I wouldn't care about the status. I wouldn't because I hate TSA. I hate the security. I hate all the stuff that about the plane. You know, getting on the plane, yeah, get me to my destination. But actually getting on the plane for the takeoff is a nightmare. But that's why I want a private plane. Maybe you want a Lamborghini or a Maserati, or maybe you want to have a mansion. Focus on happiness. And I hope that the time I had with Ramona today, if nothing else, I hope it made you stop and think and go, can I breathe? Oh, I can breathe. Can I appreciate? Just look around, whether you're outside or inside. Just appreciate. And then the last thing she said, oh, wrong card. Choose your focus. I take notes here. I don't know if I can read my writing anymore, but choose your focus. Don't focus on things that are causing you to be angry. Now, I don't tell people no news. I say, know what's going on, but don't become obsessed. So you should know basically what's going on in the world, but you should know about everything that's going on in the world. I hope that makes sense to you. So you don't want someone to go, oh, have you heard of COVID? COVID? You know, you should know what it is, but you should know everything about COVID or going to Mars or fake meat or whatever the case is. You should know what's going on in the world. Otherwise, people are going to think, what are you? Why didn't you know what's going on in the world? So I want to thank you for being on the show. Before you tell us where we can go to find out more about you and what you're doing in the world, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners and viewers?
I want your listeners to start now. Don't put it off. Start now. Choose something that we've talked about and start now and feel your life start to feel better.
I concur. So if people want to find out more about you, which they would, why wouldn't they? You gave us a ton of value today. How would they do that?
RamonaGaley.com. That's the best place to reach me. My social media links are on there. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. When you go to RamonaGaley.com and you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a little button there that says private. Click that button. And you'll get not only a money off coupon for any of my services, in case you're interested, you'll also get access to my private podcast. It's not published anywhere other than through that link. And you can go and listen to me talk about a lot of different things. We have a lot of fun. You can even come on the podcast if you want. I have what I call guest hosts. They come in and ask me questions and I answer them. And we have a wonderful time. It's very uplifting. And I'd love to see you there on that page.
Wow. Private. That's something I might have to steal that idea. I was thinking about creating a link that says, don't click this to see how many people click it. Because when you tell someone not to do it, I can vouch. And my mom would say, don't get into the cookies. I'm like, she'd leave. I'm like, oh, going to have some cookies.
Time for cookies, right? I love a button on the wall that says, don't push this button. I got to push the button.
Yeah, it's our human nature. So after you go to RamonaGaley.com and spell your last name for the people, please.
Galey, RamonaGaley.com.
Yeah. Wanted to make sure they get that. After you do that, I have two favors to ask you. Number one, if you are watching or listening on Spotify, I love you if you're watching, or you can't be watching another platform other than YouTube, but if you're listening on another platform, I still love you, but this is for my Spotify listeners. Give me a follow and then send me a comment. There's a place on Spotify where you can send me a comment. I don't care what you say. What up, dog? Love the podcast. Why you bald? Just send me a comment. It would mean the world to me. And then head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. When you go there, there is no doubt what I want you to do. So go there, check it out, and you'll understand what I mean. Until the next episode, my friend, you know what I always tell you, stay productive, but most importantly, stay positive.